Alex Cassie was a key member of the forgery team, making crucial documents, passes and letters to help the escapers get out of Germany.
We had a formal signing session, signature, because I'd made one of the overstamps for Roger Bushell's passport. And I'd gone to great trouble to put in a slight smudging of the stamp to make it look a bit more realistic. Roger was delighted, and he said, "This is going to go into the Imperial War Museum when I get back. You can come and see it there if you like." And those are his last words to me. "Well, remember, Cass, it'll be in the Imperial War Museum." Pity it didn't get there.
His work on forgeries earned Cassie a place on the escape list, but he chose not to go.
I just didn't fancy going out in very cold weather. I thought, this is going to be miserable. I saw no point in being miserable. I was thinking, well, I've worked hard for this. I've helped other people to go out. I've done at least that much towards confusing the Germans. And I didn't relish the prospect of having to exist without a cigarette either. And that's why I made my decision. Also, I went down the tunnel. I was taken on a helper's tour, as it were, of the tunnel. And I found it a horrible place. I would never have been able to, I'm sure I would never have been able to endure going underground for all that length of time.
But while Cassie wasn't going out, his 5 roommates were.
The place is an awful mess of their own clothes, which, especially Plunkett, of course, hadn't folded up neatly. But nobody bothered. They'd got what they had to get, which was the escape kit and the escape documents, and they were getting into the character for being the part that they'd have to play when they got away from the camp altogether. So there was an air of not very well concealed excitement, of nervousness, apprehension for what might happen. As Gordon Brattell asked me, he said, "If I don't get back, will you get in touch with my family and let them know what had happened, why it happened?" And Tim Whalen asked me if I would hold his watch for him and see his gold watch, which is a 21st birthday present from his parents. I said I'd do that. And off they went. And I had an awful feeling of loneliness after they'd gone, because I'd been with these people for at least 6 months, and I'd known some of them for a good deal longer than that.
All of his roommates were captured by the Gestapo after the escape, and 4 of them were killed.
But this was a case of people being deliberately taken out, cold-bloodedly, and terminated. One moment they were alive and well, and the next moment they were dead. I just felt, an immense sense of loss, of the injustice of the loss. 4 very able, lively, young men, all talented in one way or another. 1 or 2 were more exceptionally talented. I'm thinking of Gordon Brattell and Henri Picard. Just being wiped out by the whim of Hitler is just unspeakably awful. But one had to accept it, and you learn to live with things like that. I suppose I think about this probably every day, almost a routine reminder sometimes of the loss that those families suffered and so on.
Only 3 men got home after the escape. One of them was Dutchman Bram van der Stok, a fluent German speaker who'd been travelling alone.
Yeah, no, we heard after the war that van der Stok had he travelled by train from Sargen to Holland and contacted the Dutch resistance, who got him onto an escape line and got him right down to the Pyrenees, but he found he'd forgotten the name of the cafe where he was supposed to meet his guide. And he was in a terrible state, apparently, about this, and he walked around, I forget the name of the place, fairly small place. Suddenly he saw Café L'Orange, and of course he was Orange Dutch, and he said, that's it. It suddenly came back to him, and it saved his bacon, and he got his guide and got across the Pyrenees into Spain and home. And he was actually operating on fighters. I think he was leading a fighter squadron right at the end of the war in 1945. And the Allies crossed the Rhine. But the other two, there were 2 Norwegians, they went by train to Stettin, and they were in Sweden. They managed to get on board a Swedish ship within about 24 hours, I think, of getting out of the tunnel. But they were the only 3 who got back.
Jimmy James spent the rest of the war in Sachsenhausen concentration camp. He returned to Britain in 1945 and eventually joined the Foreign Office. Alex Cassie remained at Sargen for the duration. After the war, he became a psychologist. Jack Lyon also remained at Sargen until liberation in 1945. After the war, he spent his career working in finance. Les Broderick returned home in 1945 and became a teacher. He moved to South Africa in the early 50s, where he still lives in retirement.